Thank you, Sean. Thank you for the invite to this event, and thank you for the video clip. Wherever I go, people always ask me, where did it start? I didn't get up one morning and say, I think today I'll form an organization, give it a name, find some founder members, write a constitution, write some founding principles, and say what we're going to do. It never started like that. Gift of the Givers is very spiritual. It has a spiritual basis, and everything about it is guided through a spiritual master. If I reflect, that spirituality actually started in 1985, not in 1992. And let me explain. I was doing internship in King Edward Hospital in Durban, and I wanted to study further. I wanted to be a specialist in medicine, internal medicine. But at that time, there was not much opportunity, so I couldn't go forward. And I was forced to go into private practice. It's something I didn't want to do, but I had no choice. I had to do it. Now, just as an aside, in life, lots of things don't work out. You want to do something, but you don't get what you want. And a lot of people get depressed and upset. You shouldn't look at life that way. You see, when we pray, we don't pray for what we want. We pray for what is good for us. Because what you want may not necessarily be good for you. So it's important to understand that when you see something that looks bad, look into the bad, and you may actually find the good in what appears to be bad. So this is very, very critical. So I had no choice. I moved into Pietermaritzburg in January 1986. At that point, an Afrikaner man from Pretoria also moved to Pietermaritzburg. And he came to teach French at the University of Natal. My neighbor came to me and said, I've got this guy from Pretoria. He bought meat from me. He's got a medical condition and he needs a doctor. So Mulla and I met. We were having dialogue and discussions every time I treated him. And one day he opened up. He tells me, I was very down and out whilst walking through the streets of New York. And down the road, I saw a big Turkish man. He looked at me from the distance at a time that my soul was in its worst possible state. I don't understand, but my soul told me to follow this man. So he followed this man to St. John the Divine, a huge church in New York. When he got there, this Turkish man who was a Muslim, a Sufi master, then made a zikr in the church. A zikr is a celebration of God's names in Arabic. In the different cultures or languages or scriptures will say, God, the living, eternal, kind, compassionate, merciful, cherisher, sustainer, all loving, kind, all different adjectives. And he did it. The Jewish rabbis, the Hindu pandits, the Christian priests, and even those who don't believe, and all their followers joined him. Here was a Muslim man doing a Muslim religious practice in a church in New York, joined by people from all religions. So that goes back to the question. People say religions are the cause of friction all over the world. Religions are not the cause of friction all over the world. It's adherents of the religion that don't follow the religion that cause friction all over the world. Religion does not cause friction. Because in the same way, I can say that corporates that do different kinds of malpractice are cause of disorder in the world. I can say the same thing about lawyers who do who rub the road accident fund. I can say the same thing about doctors who do malpractice. So do we shut down all these different aspects of life? No, we don't. The individual behavior of people is not indicative of a nation, a religion, a culture, or an entity. It is their moving away that causes the problem. Here, the Christian elders showed the unity of religion and allowed a Muslim man, what other people who believe and don't believe, in a church to do the program together. In 2010, on my way to Haiti, I went to the church. I flew to New York especially just to pay respect. Because in our tradition, you respect what comes from the past. In 1985, that same teacher that Muller met passed away. Muller I saw in 86, the teacher passed in 85, but he told me about the teacher. At some point, he then spoke a little more. He said, you need to go to Turkey, to Istanbul. So I said, Muller, it's 1986. I still haven't seen Cape Town. When am I going to see New Istanbul? He said something very significant. He said, what God wills happens. There's a time and a place. And the time of place was August 91. And I said, why am I supposed to go to Turkey? He said, the spiritual teacher that took over from the one that passed on is there. He's the new head. The one that came to America came from Turkey also. They come and visit. So you need to go there. So my wife and I, we go to Turkey. It's a long story. We're involved in another mission, pre-gift of the givers. We get there. It's not a very good time in the history of the world. This is 8 months post-war, 7 months post-Gulf War. We've seen the friction in the world. At that time, Samuel Huntington spoke of the clash of civilizations. East and West was what sort of seen at loggerheads. Christians and Jews on one side, Muslims on the other side. Coming from an apartheid past didn't help at all. Walking into a Sufi Muslim place, I see the words of Mullah coming through in front of my eyes. I see Christians, Jews, Hindus, Muslims, Americans, Russians, people from Germany, Europe, Australia, South America, all in a Muslim holy place. But the irony of this was, post-Gulf War, there was no friction, no conflict, no disorder. Everybody respecting everybody as an individual. I see the spiritual teacher in the room. He makes eye contact with me. And immediately I fall in love with a man I've never seen in my life before. And he read my soul, the next part of spirituality. You see, when you go to a new place, your guests will tell you, how's your journey? Where do you come from? Did you have a nice sleep last night? Did you have something to eat? How's your trip here? His first words to me was, what do you see? Because I was seeing this confused group of people that confused me and saying, what is this going on here? This is what Mullah said, but is this possible post-Gulf War? And I said, I'm confused. I say people of all religion, all countries with whom we've had wars in many areas, in a Muslim holy place. He said, my son, you see right. And then he goes to explain exactly what those preachers and those teachers lived in St. John the Divine. He said, my son, mankind is one single nation. The God of all mankind is one. We just call him by different names. Any imam, sheikh, Sufi, Pandit, rabbi, or priest who preaches extremism, violence, terrorism, conflict, confrontation, or disorder is not a man of God. Don't follow him. Anyone who preaches love, kindness, and compassion is a man of God. Follow him. I left. My heart yearned for that place. 6 August 1992, exactly 30 years ago, last week Saturday. I was there on a Thursday night at 10 p.m. For the Muslim world, you know, Thursday is Friday for us because our day starts at sunset the day before. We follow the lunar calendar. So at 10 p.m. on Thursday night, the teachers and those other adherents, the disciples, told me what he did was not normal. We haven't seen this in the tradition before. He sat in the corner of the room, made eye contact with me, and said in fluent Turkish. And I don't understand a word of Turkish. But I understood every single word that he said in Turkish that night. He said, my son, I'm not asking you. I'm instructing you to form an organization. The name in Arabic will be Waqful Waqifin. Translated, it means gift of the givers. You will serve all people of all races, all religions, all colors, all classes, all cultures, of any geographical location and of any political affiliation. But you will serve them unconditionally. You will expect nothing in return, not even a thank you. In fact, in what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, expect to get a kick up your back. If you don't get a kick up your back, regard it as a bonus. Serve people with love, kindness, compassion, and mercy. And remember, the dignity of man is foremost. So if someone is down in the ground, don't push them down further. Hold them, elevate them, wipe the tear of a grieving child, caress the head of an orphan, say words of good counsel to a widow. These things are free. They don't cost anything. Clothe the naked, feed the hungry, provide water to the thirsty. And in everything that you do, Be the best at what you do, not because of ego. Ego is destructive. Ego is arrogance. Ego causes conflict, not because of ego, but because you're dealing with human life, human emotion, human suffering, and human dignity. He repeated, this is an instruction for you for the rest of your life. I was 30 years old at that time. He then said a spiritual message again. He said, my son, whatever you do is done through you and not by you. 30 years, I'm a living witness that the kind of things that you would think that I do is not humanly possible. Everything is put up in front for you in a very special way. Everything is organized, everything is arranged. I told you he spoke in fluent Turkish, and I don't speak Turkish, and I don't understand Turkish. But I understood Turkish that night. And I asked him, I said, how come it is when you speak Turkish, I understand, and when other people speak Turkish, I don't understand? He said, my son, when the hearts connect and the souls connect, the words become understandable. I told him, now we got a bit of a problem. So he said, what's the problem? I said, I'm a doctor. I have 3 practices in a place called Pietermaritzburg in South Africa. You've given me this instruction. When exactly am I supposed to do this? After hours, public holidays, long weekends, school holidays? He gave me one message, one line. You will know. For 30 years, I do know what to do, how to do, what to touch, what not to touch. The moment I walked out of there, it came to me by inspiration. On the 6th of August, the same night, it came to me, respond to the civil war in Bosnia. The same month, I took in 32 containers of aid into war-torn Bosnia. 3 months later, in November, we took another 8 containers of winter items. In 93, we designed the world's first containerized mobile hospital, a product of South African technology, built in South Africa, with South African engineers, and taken from Africa into Europe. When the CNN commentator filmed the hospital on 1st February 1994, he said the South African containerized mobile hospital is equal to any of the best hospitals in Europe. How many South Africans believe in themselves? How many of us believe in our continent and in our country? We always look into northern countries. This was something built in Africa and taken to Europe. Those 3 missions then made it clear to me when he said, you will know. I then knew the gift of the givers was going to be a disaster response agency. We are the biggest disaster response agency in Africa and one of the fastest in the world. That was the gift. And everything else that we do is built around disasters. We have 21 categories of projects. Not 21 projects, 21 categories of projects. And each one has its subcategories, which we all run simultaneously. Fast forward to 2004. Up till that point, it was tents, blankets, medicines, food, bottled water. There were no teams as such. And the organization now needed to evolve. So 26 December 2004, a tsunami struck. 13 countries were affected. Indonesia, Thailand, India, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, other countries, Maldives. And along the line, on the northeast of Africa, a place called Hafun in Somalia was also affected. The Sri Lankan president came on TV, Chandrika Kumaratunga, and said, we don't know what to do. I had 2 team members, not medical, ordinary team members in Dubai on the way to India. I told them we're diverting. We're going to Sri Lanka. We were the first team in the world that responded to the tsunami in Sri Lanka. We were the first team in the world that met the Sri Lankan president. Within 5 days, we delivered 7 million rand worth of aid. We flew in planes from India, from Dubai, and from Colombo in Sri Lanka to the parts affected that were cut off by the tsunami. We were the first team in the world given land by the Sri Lankan president, and we were the first team in the world that built houses for Sri Lanka in the tsunami at that point. But at the same time, there was this place called Hafun on the northeast of Somalia. Again, our survival, as you've learned in the last 3 years, is dependent on us helping ourselves. If Africa does not interact with Africa, if our trade does not increase significantly, we are doomed. And in every case, we help each other. We have to bring that philosophy that Africa stands by and helps each other. So we went into Somalia. I'm not going into the details, it's too complicated. For the first time, we took in a primary healthcare team. This was the evolution of gift what they give us 12 years later. For the first time, we had a medical team. In August of 2005, we went into Africa again. We've assisted 22 countries in Africa. We went into Niger, affected by famine. Drought killed all the plants. Those that survived the locust came and ate everything up. There was malnutrition, there was hunger, there was disease, there was death. Thousands of children were dying a day. We landed in Niamey and moved to a place called Telaberi inside Niger. When we got there and the announcement was made, a medical team has come from South Africa. Thousands of people came. But there was something very strange about the population profile that came. No adult male came. No teenagers came. No children over the age of 5. And every mother that brought a child under the age of 5 then asked for treatment for herself. I couldn't understand this. This is a crisis. There's a medical team. Why did they not come? And then when we realized we can't see all the thousands of people, we started walking through the crowds. We have to triage. We specialize in disasters. So I look at the child and I point to the mother and I say, they understood the language of the heart on the spot. They gave me a broad smile and they walked out. Didn't say, why are you not seeing my child? I did it with number 2 and number 5, and my team started doing that. The population caught on. From the distance, the mother would say, and we would say, big smile and walk out. I'm trying to think what else is going on here. That evening when we sat, Tulasizwe Simalane, SCBC reporter at that time is now at ENCA, said, I'd like to talk first. And he says, when I went into the villages of Tilaberi, they told me that 5 to 10 children a day were dying from malnutrition and hunger and disease in this area. I said, I got my answer. They said, what do you mean? I said, Africa showed its spirituality. It showed its Ubuntu. It showed its quality of sacrifice that the world doesn't know about. And adult males didn't come. Teenagers didn't come. Mother didn't ask for treatment. No children of the age of 5 came. And mothers walked out of the queue because they knew we were less. They knew our resources were less. So let's save the child who we can save now. My child may die in 5 days' time, or in 7 days' time, or in 10 days' time. I'm prepared to take that risk. I'm prepared to take that risk with my child for 5 days or 7 days or 10 days. But my neighbor, my brother, my relative down the road, that child needs to be saved now. So they sacrificed their own children and walked out so that you could save another child. We saved every single child in the days that we were there in Niger. Thank you to the people of Niger who made the supreme sacrifice. We talk about faith. We talk about spirituality. Is any of us prepared to make that kind of sacrifice? To let somebody else be seen before your child is seen? Think about it carefully. This was Niger. 2 months later, we landed in Pakistan. Massive earthquake. A earthquake hits one city, not an entire region. It took out Rawalpindi right to the Kashmir border. The entire northwest region was gone. What a massive earthquake. We upgraded. Now with primary healthcare, trauma teams, orthopedic surgeons, general surgeons, vascular surgeons, neurosurgeons, gynecologists, theater nurses, ICU nurses, paramedics, and post-op rehab specialists. The team was now upgraded just a few months later. We walk into Pakistan. The general comes to us and says, do you mind not going to the earthquake? So I asked him, then which hospital are you giving me? He says, you understand? I say, I understand clearly. He says, I'll give you the cantonment hospital of Rawalpindi. My teams look at me and said, why did you come here if you're not going to the earthquake? I said, you read between the lines. The man is telling you that everything is gone. The hospitals are gone. The doctors are gone. The equipment are gone. There's just massive deaths in the area. There's nothing to do on the mountains. So I said, have you got helicopters? I need to send my teams to stabilize those that are alive. He looks at me and says, my friend, you can see our situation. All the helicopters are gone. It's a crisis. Again, in disasters, because the teacher taught you. You don't look at race. You don't look at geography. You don't look at religion. You look at a human being as a human being. And you approach humans and you don't judge anybody. You always think positive. You always think good. So I walked around on the Air Force base in Rawalpindi and I see the American Air Force. So I walk to the American Air Force and I see a big black guy. I said, my brother, where you from? I know where he's from. Where you from? He says, I'm from America. I said, you black? You from Africa? He looks at me. He says, brother, yes, I'm from Africa. I said, me too, I'm from Africa. We hug each other. I said, my brother, we brothers, I got a bit of a problem. He said, what's your problem? I said, I need to send my teams in the mountain. I need a helicopter. He said, you, my brother, take 3 in 2 minutes. 2 Black Hawks and another helicopter in 3 minutes. 2 minutes, 3 helicopters in 2 minutes. He understood the language of the heart. He understood that politics have got no play in human life and human saving. And he made a decision without worrying about his colonel and his general and his lieutenant above him. He took the helicopters and said, take them. 3 helicopters in 2 minutes to save life. This is the approach that we need as human beings, not be blocked by red tape, by bureaucracy, by laws that do not benefit mankind in any way. And so my teams go to the mountain. And the other team goes to the cantonment hospital of Rawalpindi. And as we walk inside, we get the stench of death, of gangrene. Not enough doctors, not enough nursing staff, no disinfectant, no beds, no IV lines. Kids are lying on the stretcher. No parents are out there. They dead. There's nobody. No food, no medical supplies. And the kids are just lying there helpless. Again, think, if it was your child, what would that be like? So we walk in, and I call the general, and I say, what is this? Is this a killing field? What's happening here? The CEO of the hospital comes, and he says, don't you know, said General, I'm sorry, but this hospital is decommissioned. We're shutting it down. I said, you guys are crazy. All your health facilities are destroyed in the mountain, and you're shutting up a hospital that works. It makes no sense to me what you're saying. So the general asked, what can we do? I gave him a shopping list. I said, bring this, and I'll show you what we can do. In less than 24 hours, a hospital that was shutting down in Rawalpindi, the South African medical team converted it into a 400-bed emergency hospital, doing 75 operations a day. For which the Pakistan president the following year in 2006 gave us a presidential award. Something additional happened in 2005, December. And these stories are very important because we are suffering from race issues in this country. We need to kill it. So a lady calls me from Pretoria University. Her name is Karina Extian, spinal rehab specialist. And she says, Dr. Sooliman, I'd like to go and help the people of Pakistan. I said, when, Karina? She says, December, Christmas. A Christian lady sacrifices Christmas to go to a Muslim country to take this put of Ubuntu to help people there. She made people walk who would never walk again. Spinal rehab specialist. She even brought a child to South Africa to carry on treatment of this child. And when she finished off there after 3 weeks, the patients, their families, the doctors, and even the military cried. We took across our greatest export, Ubuntu, and love for people. Now we can do it the other side. Why can't we do it here? We need to change our mindsets and our stereotypes and our approach to each other. We have to change. There's no other way of saving this country. We said there's only one thing missing with gift of the givers now. We got trauma counselors, we got primary healthcare, trauma medicine, post-op rehab, everything. There's only one thing that's weak in the system. Search and rescue teams and dog. So we work towards that. 12 January 2010, a massive earthquake hits Haiti. In 40 seconds, 250,000 people are killed. We got our search and rescue teams now. We got them ready, and we're sending them via Paris to Haiti. So I speak to Durko. I said, we need a Schengen visa immediately for transit. The French government says, come to the consulate. They go immediately, within 10 minutes, we get the Schengen visa for everybody approved. I give Air France the business, and I tell Air France, will you get my teams to Port-au-Prince? They said, we will. I said, you won't. They said, the airport is open. I said, it will close. I said, give me a guarantee in writing. They gave me a guarantee in writing. Big mistake. In the meantime, I said, you have to have plan B. This is not going to work. In disasters, you always got to think forward of your teams. I make no bones about it. My teams come first. Other people are second. The victims and those affected are second. My teams come first. If we're not alive, we can't help anybody. So, whilst they're on the plane, I phoned the Catholic Society of Johannesburg. The guy answers on the other side. I said, I don't know you, but I need the Pope. The guy couldn't speak for 10 seconds. Why does the Muslim guy want the Pope? I said, we Muslims, we're connected all over the world. What about you Christian guys? So he tells me, why do you want a Pope? So I said, I want the Catholic organization to meet my teams in Dominican Republic and take them across into Haiti. He calls me back in 3 hours. He said, arranged. Caritas and Catholic Relief Services will meet your team in Dominican Republic, make all the arrangements, and take them across into Port-au-Prince, into Haiti, and they've got their own compound where your teams can stay with them. So I said, thanks. The teams land in Paris. They said, we've got a problem. I said, I know. Port-au-Prince is closed. Airport is closed. You've got an alternative flight to Dominican Republic in 2 hours. Here's the contact. They get to Dominican Republic. Big board, South African team, welcome. Accommodation, transport, water, food, everything, and visas. And you move across into Haiti to stay on the other side. 20th January 2010, our teams make world history. In the Catholic Church that collapsed 8 days after the earthquake. No water, no food, no oxygen, fractured hip. My teams pull out alive 64-year-old Anna Zizi from the Catholic Church. Her first words to the team was, I love God. You instilled hope in somebody several thousand kilometers away. And then she says, I love you. The medical teams came from the back and they said, leave this to us. Organ teams from big first world countries said, we can't do this. Everything's destroyed. And the South African team said, leave this to us. That same South African team goes through our schools, our universities, and our hospitals. How much faith do you have in your own country? We need to look at that very, very seriously. And the guys go up, and when they start delivering, the people of Haiti and from other countries say, if you want help and you want healing, then go to the dream team. And the dream team is from South Africa. The whole world knows our capability. Only we don't know our own capability. Fast forward 2016, November, I make a conscious decision to cut all international marketing. No international marketing. Media focuses too much on international stuff. They don't know what we're doing locally. Don't kill the project, I just kill the marketing. June 2017, South African society then saw our local capability. Massive fire hits Nizuna. I'm sending 2 lady project managers. Checkers gives me their car park and said, use this as a warehouse. So they move in and with the people of Nizuna, arrange 20,000 food parcels. The Nizuna people come with their buckets because a superlink can't go into a car park. It's wait on the outside, the forklifts are arranged, the buckets come, the people get involved. It's one united South Africa working together to help across race and religion and color to get help to everybody. So the buckets go up, the food parcels are made, it comes back down and it's distributed to the people, including blankets, hygiene packs, sanitary pads, and detergents. And then we sent in our own firefighters. We supported 1,200 firefighters twice a day with water, liquids, nutrition products, energy biscuits, and even provided hot meals. Then we brought in our own advanced life support paramedics, advanced life support ambulance. We brought in specialist medical teams that even delivered babies in hospitals and moved the patients from Nizna into George. And when we did all that, somebody comes and says, what about the cat and the dog? So I said, what about the cat and the dog? They said the cat and the dog is hungry. There's no food for them. So I said, okay, we'll arrange food for the cat and the dog. And then they said, there was a drought here. What about the cattle? And the sheep? And the horse? And the pigs? I said, anything else? They said, yes, the animals in the wild and the elephant in the park. So we arranged food for all these categories. Man has to take care of the environment. He has to take care of creation. So we send this. And then the classic one came. The guy walks into the warehouse in the Checkers building and he says, I didn't get sugar. So I said, Emily, why does Grant didn't get sugar? So he said, no, it's not for me. But Emily said, the sugar is coming just now. So I said, Grant, your sugar is coming just now. He says, it's not for me. So I said, is it your friend, your neighbor, your uncle who? He says, no, it's not for them either. So I said, who is this for? He says, for the bees. I thought this guy had too much of shots before he came to me. What the hell you want sugars for the bees for? I said, Grant, I don't understand what you're saying, but you can have the sugar for the bees. That evening, I said, no, the story is incomplete. So the next morning, I called him. I said, you better come and explain. The story doesn't sound very good to me. So he comes and he says, you see, we told you there was a drought here. The drought killed all the plants. The bees didn't have plants to feed on. Then the fire came. The fire wiped out 300 beehives. Each beehive holds 75,000 to 80,000 bees, which means we lost 22 million bees. The Cape honeybee is the most versatile, most resilient bee in the world. It is haploid and diploid, meaning it can make its own queen bee if the queen bee dies. We wiped 22 million, got wiped out. I said, that still doesn't explain the sugar story to me. So he says, in the absence of a plant, you could do nectar pollen substitute, but that is too expensive. So the only other option is sugar. You make a solution while you try to sort the other things out. So I gave him 30 tons of sugar. And I said, in addition to that, I'll give you money to regrow the plants over a period of time. I'll give you 300 beehives. I'll give you nectar pollen substitute. And an institute was set up in Nizag. That was before we got to the fire. It became a research institute. Academics, professors, students all go there learning, and the honeybee population is growing again in that area. It's spreading in that area. They're taking care of the honeybee. I'm just coming towards the end because there's questions to ask. Whilst we're doing this, we get a call. This is related not to your farming, but to farming. We get a call from Sutherland to say the merino sheep count is dropping. The sheep count in Sutherland and the Northern Cape was 440,000. It was dropping 400, 350, 300, 250, 200. The sheep count is dropping because there's no fodder for the animals. So we started sending millions of rands of fodder, the truckloads of at an incredible cost. We arranged 160 train coaches to take it fodder from different parts of the country. And I must say, South Africans stood up. Farmers from other parts of South Africa gave this fodder for free. Some places we had to buy the expensive stuff, but the transport we had to pay for. And they took it in. June 2018, a desperate cry from the people of Sutherland and Northern Cape. Now, besides the fodder, all our bowls are dry. There's no more water. So even if you give us the fodder, it's not going to help. There's no water for the sheep to drink. I sent my teams in and we drilled 238 boreholes at our cost. In January 2022, this year, one of the farming people that we work with put up this machine that you fortify pellets. We put nutrition into the pellets. And we started funding that project. For the first time since June 2017, the sheep count started climbing. It dropped to 31,000. From 440,000 to 31,000. Some farmers shot themselves. Depression. Others took the kids out of school. They took the kids out of university. And ultimately they told us, when you bring food parcels for the farmers, farm workers, can you bring food parcels for us? We can't feed our families anymore. When we said we're taking in fodder, they said we don't have the fuel to put in the bucket to drive to fetch the fodder. The bank accounts are maximum. The loans are maximum. The cooperatives are not giving us any more things on account. The banks are holding back funding. They're not doing anything. We need to put humanity into our business transactions. Did the farmer go and gamble? Did he burn the money? Did he have a big party? Did he go on first-class business? He's been working for the country for 50, 60, 80, 100 years with his family. He was affected by natural conditions of bad weather and drought, and his life came to a standstill. We need to be more compassionate in the kind of things that we do and support them. And we have to stop this. I'm a blunt guy, so I call white corporates, and I tell them white farmers are in trouble. And they tell me it's not politically correct to have white farmers. And I said, what kind of a dumb answer is that? I said, the white farmers employ white farm laborers. They look at me like I'm talking a foreign language. I said, they employ black people and colored people. So if the farmers go down, the houses of black and colored people are destroyed. That's what happens. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, I got a call from the same people with the machine. They said, we are in serious trouble. We are about to lose 65% of the farmers in the Northern Cape region. And I said, why? They said, we can't subsidize the thing anymore. Stage 6 has destroyed our machine. Cost us 178,000 rand to repair. The Ukraine war has put the fuel price up. The transport cost, the maize price has all gone up. We can't give the farmers at the same price. And if we put it up by 5 rand more, 65% of farmers, black, white, and colored, are going to collapse in the entire region. And everything goes with them. I said, I will fund it. Keep it at the same price. We will fund it. And we will subsidize it. And I sent them the first 300,000. I said, you want another one, and another one, and another one. Just ask me. We will send it in because all these farmers are our farmers. All these people are our people. We are one nation, one country, and we stand together and help each other. The time is almost up. I'm coming to a crucial part of the issue. You see, South Africans like complain. There's a pothole here. Electricity went to stage 6. You can't get, there's no water, there's no prom here, government is falling apart, there's corruption. Yes, there's everything, it's true, it's everything. This country does not belong to the government. It belongs to the people of South Africa. This is my country. It's your country, and the country of 65 million people. Now you can sit there and moan and groan, or you can get up and do something about it. Because 7 million people's taxes can't look after 65 million people. It's impossible. So even our friend from Australia was running this country, or from America, or from Canada, or from Germany. They will never be able to run this country with 7 million people's taxes. We need more taxes. We need more income. We need more agriculture. We need growth in every department. Yes, we have to cut the subsidies. We have to make sure the import duties come in. Other countries have their own farmers. We have to change that in our country. We have to help our own farmers to make productivity. Yes, if it's a little more expensive, it doesn't matter because you are creating jobs. You're putting livelihood. You're helping people sustain themselves. You're giving them dignity. It doesn't matter if it costs a little more in your own country. Support your own country. We need to go back to cotton farming. The big corporates killed the cotton farming because they started importing from China. You know, you'll make lots of money at one point. But what did COVID show? Unemployment, lockdown, all your profits are gone because there's nobody to buy. When you don't have a buying market, what happens? Your whole economy collapses. So yes, few people on the top may make some money, but eventually your grandfather, your cousin, your auntie, who can't go anywhere else, are destroyed. Let's all put back in the country together. Corporate South Africa, farmers, let's get back together, everybody, and rebuild this country ourselves. It's not impossible. And while saying that about the country, everybody in government is not corrupt. Everybody in government is not a crook. You get crooks in the corporate world. You get them in the farming world. You get them in the religious sector. You get them with lawyers, with accountants, with doctors, and even in the NGO sector. You got crooks everywhere. It doesn't make the institution bad. It has people with bad qualities and bad characteristics, which we need to change. But there are good people everywhere who want to do the right things. So we need to hold hands together and go forward. Government, corporates, private sector, and rebuild this country. In a place called Potchefstroom, where I was born, and I lived till 1974, one man fixed 2,500 potholes himself. I said, I'm not waiting for anybody. Yeah, down the road, the floods we had here in KZN, where we supported, we put in 17 boreholes in Tonga. We supported food parcels, bulk food, sanitary pads, mattresses, blankets. We help people with homes, upgrade homes. We put in appliances, equipment, and even bedding sets for people in that area. And of course, the whole of KZN. I'm not going to the details of that, just too much. But in that area itself, the M41 bridge in Lambesi, that collapsed. People from Mshloti, white people, and from Balito, white people said, we're going to do something. Indians from Tonga said, we'll do something. Colored people said, they'll do something. Black people, poor people, from Lendelani and Polani informal settlement, who lost their houses, who lost their possessions, who lost their children, who lost everything, said, we are a part of this community. We have no reserves. We have no banking accounts. We have no money. But we are part of this community. We will take and we will contribute towards this bridge because we are one South African nation. In Elliotdale in the Eastern Cape, children get washed away every day, crossing the water to go to school. So one white man got up and said, this is enough. He got poles, make the bridge the way you do bridges in Africa, and put it across the river. And the black people of 80% unemployment said, this is for us. We're going to be part of this process. We're not unemployed. We don't have money. We will take out money and we will contribute. And they took out money and they contributed and the bridge is built. It was put on ENCA last week at some point. This is South Africans standing together. And the final point, everybody say, ooh, how safe is this country? You know, we had an insurrection. What insurrection are you talking about? An insurrection is you attack the government, the parliament, the defense force, and the police force. Please tell me which insurrection in the world you attack a shopping mall. A shopping mall with a 2-year-old child, unarmed people, a lady on a walking stick, youngest and teenagers. Please get it right. There was no insurrection in this country. People were used as fodder. Ordinary people were hoodwinked. Students from Durban, Baria, were sent to West Street to take expensive clothes from the shop. Because the real problem are the traitors and the anti-patriots. People like that, we can't allow them to rule this country. We will stop them. They cannot come in and change. They use those people and use them and abuse them. And they say we're doing this in the interest of black people. Please tell me which black person benefited from this. Black people lost their jobs. Black people lost their income. Black people had to pay more money to go on taxes. Black people died in hospitals because medical people couldn't go there. Please tell me which black people benefited. Please don't be used by politicians and troublemakers and traitors and anti-patriots. We will stop them. And we did stop them. And you know what stopped them? The people we all hate the most, the taxi drivers. The taxi drivers stood up and said, we will not allow this to happen. And they stopped it. And every community got up and said, this is our country. Nobody's going to take it. Black, white, Indian, and colored, and even foreign nationals stood together. The ordinary people were no danger. They were no threat. They were harmless. The people behind came to burn the shops. The masterminds did this, not the ordinary people. Don't have judgment against ordinary poor people. They had nothing to do with this. They were just used as fodder. Keep your minds open. We are one country. We stand together in everything that we do. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a country to build. This is our country. This is the greatest country in the world. Right now, there's a drought issue in Europe. There's an energy issue in Europe. Countries that have health issues in Europe. There are problems everywhere. Invite them to South Africa. This is a great country. We can fix everything ourselves. Holding hands together, doing together, one brotherhood, one nation, one country, one community. Thank you very much. Yeah, yeah, no problem.
Dr. Sooliman, thank you very much for that gift. Did you feel that passion? Yeah, I hope that passion actually ignites more passion in you as we look to understand the heart, as Dr. Sooliman has taught us today, and be transformational leaders for our industry. Starting off, of course, first with our 85 direct reportees to the sugar industry, and then the 380,000 indirect reportees before we head off to the 65 million people of South Africa. And not to mention the 22 million bees, of course. Dr. Sooliman has kindly offered to field a couple of questions. I'm sure you're looking to ask him for further inspiration. So if we can get some mics across to the audience, we're happy to take at least one or two questions. If I can ask the technical support to please unmute the audience.
Here's one here in the front.
There's a question up front.
Thank you, Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman, for the very inspiring talk or address. It is a very profound speech from you. I'm trying to establish as South Africans, how do we really fight the issue of inequality in the country? Because in South Africa, our society is one of those very unequal ones in the world. How do we really fight that scourge? How do we ameliorate the situation of those who are in need?
You know, corporate South Africa. Sorry, your name?
Oh, we spoke the other day, Cedric Mboisa. We spoke on
Oh,
the
you're the
phone.
boss. Yeah, okay. Hi, Cedric. How are you? Yeah. Up till recently, corporate South Africa did CSI for the sake of doing CSI because it's good for the points. So you take the register 90% BE, very good. Get a tax certificate, very good. Get some community newspaper to write something about it, very good. And you get something to make yourself happy and you satisfy yourself. You've done something. Actually, you've done nothing. Your CSI had no meaning in it. The type of people in your CSI portfolios also had no meaning in it. When COVID came, things changed. The heart of corporate South Africa changed. And for the first time, I could see real compassion in corporate work. I'm not that everybody doesn't have compassion. This is not a generalization. But, you know, you saw people changing their attitude. And they would call and say, how can we save our people? How can we save our country? How can we make a difference? The same thing came from the unrest. The companies whose shops got burned first, whose industries got burned first, should have been the most angry. They were the ones who called first and said, how can we make a difference to our people in this country? And people said it was hunger that caused the problem. It's not hunger that caused the problem. Hunger hasn't caused the crisis in this country for tens of years. If hunger caused the problem, Eastern Cape would have burned 15 times already by now. Since 2022, children have been dying of malnutrition and hunger in Eastern Cape. And they're dying right now as I talk to you. Why? The parents are so used to hunger, they don't understand what malnutrition is all about. So when the child is hungry in the rural areas, they just keep the child at home. When it's too late, it comes to the clinic, which is not well equipped, or goes to the major hospital. But by that time, the child just dies. So we got together with the health department in Eastern Cape, with the dietitians, and we were fortunate. 3 years ago, a Norwegian company called me. They wanted some advice about a product called Easy Peanut Paste, which they wanted to use in disaster zones. And what they proposed to me, I told them that's not going to work. I never heard from them again. But we were using their product. In March this year, they said we've been following your social media posts, and we saw that you're giving our product to help. It's a fortified peanut product, but essential macronutrients and peanut-based proteins. We're giving it out in Eastern Cape and other parts of the country. We want to help South Africa. Knowing what has happened with the floods, COVID, civil unrest, we want to do something different for the country. We want to make a conscientious support for the country in Norwegian. They sent in 15 containers of the product valued at 25 million rand. And these are the Australian embassy came to us. The Canadian embassy came to us. The US consul general called me for a meeting, came to us. The Swedish have come to us. I spoke to the head of Daimler Trucks last week, Michael Ditz, to say the Germans are going to get involved. Every country sees the importance of changing things in South Africa. Coming back to your issue, we need buy-in from corporate South Africa, not for food. We need to look after the dignity of people. You see, when you have no dignity and when you're humiliated, you have no hope. And when there's no hope, there's no limit to what you can do. So we've got to fix a few things. Number one, infrastructure at hospitals. The worst thing possible is a child is sick in a rural Transkei. There's no ambulance, there's no bus, there's no proper road. Gets to the clinic late at night, there's not enough staff, the staff are exhausted, there's no equipment, there's no supplies, or there's too many people, and the child dies for a reason that he should not die. What's going to do it? It's going to break their parents. We can't allow this to happen. We have to fix the hospitals in this country. We have to put in more medical personnel in hospitals. The government's got no money. They cut the registrar program. It makes no sense to me. Registrars is academic training, it's academic teaching. You train the new doctors. They cut it by half. Professor Nkozadlova, head of the Dean of Medicine, the Dean of the Medical School in Natal, Nelson Mandela School, has called me and said we need to look at a program to fund registrar training. Professor Tobeka Tusi, the head of medicine in UCT, called me. I was with him last week. He said, I got the same problem. And we've got the same problem nationwide. We need to fund registrars. We need to fund doctors. We need to fund nurses, psychologists, OTs, a whole lot of specialists. My wife is a counseling psychologist. She went to a school called TPA. In one school, there's 173 kids with learning disorders. How can a teacher deal with 40 kids in a class and kids with learning disorders? It's not possible. So to answer your question, we need corporate buy-in from South Africa to fix these things. We've taken over that school. We're putting special education needs teachers in the school. We're putting physios. We're putting dietitians. We're putting OT people. Rodale Hospital, which was a great hospital in Pietermaritzburg, collapsed. We're upgrading that hospital. Charlotte Makeke, the one that burnt, we're starting in 2 weeks' time, a 41 million in upgrades. And this is where corporates come in. And all of us, we don't need to be corporates. Every individual can do it himself. You know how many people in your family are battling. You know your neighbor that's battling. You know what's happening down the next street. Don't look for the big things. We have a teaching. Whoever does an atom's weight of good shall see it. So look in your farming world. How can you increase more staff? How can you bring more laborers into the farming? Take them off the grid, make them socially independent. How can you have beneficiation? Can you use ethanol, as I spoke this morning to Sanita? No, how can you make our own fuel, aviation fuel, which you guys had something? The problem is government and the red tape and the bureaucracy. We need to change that. We have to force that and change that. It's not their country. They produced a machine. I'll give you the last example. In 2020, December, when Beta Wave was here, and the people were just dropping dead, boom, come to the car park, drop dead in the car park, drop dead in the car, drop dead in the ambulance, drop dead in the taxi, drop dead in the house, drop dead in our ward. Patient, nurse is about to give food, turns around, and the patient is gone, dead, in front of the eyes. And they thought what they were doing wrong. COVID ate everybody up. We had a massive shortage of oxygen machines. We didn't have it. Ventilators don't work so well. Most people died on a ventilator. A ventilator, you need ICU. You can only put 8, 10, 50 people in ICU maximum. But you need oxygen devices. So to the credit of the government, Ibrahim Patel said we need to get people to make a new oxygen delivery device. So the SKA telescope people and the engineers got together and they designed the CPAP machine. Brilliant machine, low cost, that does its job. 10 liters of oxygen per minute compared to 60 to 100 liters per minute used by the high flow nasal oxygen machines. So they made the machine and they got other engineers and they made this machine. CSIR, a government entity, produced the machine, 20,000 of them. SAPRA, the government registration body, endorsed it for use in South Africa for COVID. Solidarity Fund paid for it, 250 million rand. There was one catch. The government ordered the machine. They got the people to design it. They produced it. They approved it. They paid for it, but they couldn't put it into the government hospital. And I said, how's that possible? They were obstructed by somebody who didn't want this machine to go into hospital to save lives. I told the people, send me this machine. I didn't ask for anybody's permission. I delivered 3,000 machines to all the hospitals in South Africa. They needed it. On Monday morning, the first call came from Kala Hospital, poor hospital in the Eastern Cape. And the CEO was laughing on the phone. Nobody laughed during COVID. He was laughing on the phone. And he said, for the first time, normally on a Monday morning, we have the morbid job of counting all the dead people in our wards over the weekend. For the first time this weekend, nobody died. Everybody lived because of these machines. And the same message came from every other hospital that we gave this machine through. It's not the government's country. It's our country. You have to break the laws, put the solar panels, do whatever is necessary. We need to save this country. Thank you.
Dr. Sooliman, I think your message is very clear. As corporates, as leaders, as individuals, I think the onus is on us. Thank you.